Sports Talk Chicago. Here Jon Zaghloul, and we are back in ready for today's special guest. He's a sports radio pioneer, host of the Odds Couple on ESPN 1000, and a contributor to the Ballroom Network. Please welcome Mike North to the program. Mike, great to have you on. How are you?
I feel great, Chad. It's good to be on with you. Great circumstances. Everything's going well. I'm healthy. I feel like $1 million right now. I made it through the first week of football.
What did you make of that game yesterday? Bears 49ers. The Bears won. That was a pretty big upset. What did you think of it?
Well, first of all, Sunday you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Not yesterday.
Yeah, Sunday.
I know. You're still thinking the game just ended. I'll tell you what. I was proud of them. That's the way I looked at it. I was proud of them. I thought that in a long time I was exhilarated from this. I've been beaten down to a point where I'm still standing, and I'll take on anybody about the Mitch Trubisky situation. I've been the only guy that's been sitting in the co-pilot seat on the Mitch Trubisky Airlines from beginning to end. I think he's gotten one of the rawest deals outside of Jimmy G in the National Football League over the past 4 or 5 years. The narrative has been absolutely stunningly embarrassing for the local media and the national media. So I'm glad that Justin Field is his own man. I'm glad they made the change from Matt Nagy, who isn't equipped to ever be a coach, let alone a head coach again, even though he's having a cup of coffee with Kansas City. So I'm happy for the team. I really was pleased. I took the Bears plus the 7. And what's funny is I bet Justin Field and I bet against Mitch Trubisky because of Mitch going to Cincinnati, a Super Bowl caliber team, playing Joe Burrow. And it took Joe Burrow to probably have the worst game of his whole life, not his career, his life, Pee-wee football. You know, the first time he grabbed one, he had a better game. He's 7 years old. And they were still in it. So I think that everybody's going to come down to earth a little bit, but it couldn't have turned out better for me because I have Pittsburgh over 7.5 as far as victory. So that was a game I didn't count on.
So Mitch Trubisky gets his first win in Pittsburgh. How excited were you? You must have been so excited. I know I was.
I was happy for there's still people just sniping at him, dissecting him. How many yards was this pass? How many yards was that pass? These people, they can't be winners in life. I can't even imagine they ever competed. If all I cared about from the time I played 16 in softball to junior college basketball to I don't care if it was marbles, trying to deal baseball cards with my buddy. It was winning. Was winning every football game I ever played in, winning in business, winning in radio. So I don't understand the mindset of, you know what, you got to have great stats, but if you lose, you lose. I mean, I could look at Derek Carr. To me, I think Mitch Trubisky's as good a quarterback as Derek Carr is, and Derek Carr throws for a ton more yards. That's just the way I feel. And I've been with him the whole time. And it's funny. I don't defend Mitch. I shouldn't have to defend Mitch anymore. He is the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Justin Field that they both won. And let's go. And, you know, I didn't like what happened, but you got to let it go because I seen what's happened to Baker Mayfield and Jimmy G. These guys, they both played hurt and they get disrespected by their former teams, period.
What did you see out of Trey Lance on Sunday? Did he see a better quarterback than Jimmy G?
Not even close. Not even close. I mean, this is a joke. Shanahan, everybody loves the guy because everybody loved his dad. And, you know, they all know his dad. They all know him. It's a fraternity. It's the swamp. But that's just one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen. With Jimmy G, they're 35-16. Without him, they're 8-29. I mean, what person in their right mind, whatever business you have, would go with the person or the people that had the inferior record. So it was great. The Bears and the fans that think, and the listeners, I feel bad for Bear fans now because half of them don't know diddly about football, that thought weather had nothing to do with this. You never played football in what bad weather then. You're telling me that you'd rather play Aaron Rodgers next week on a dry field than play in the same conditions that we had? I'll take that any day of the week. The Bears were mutters or whatever you want to call it. They played better in the rain. But if that field had been dry, maybe it would have been different. And I think people that are poo-pooing the weather as being nothing. Are you kidding me? What would you rather have, Jerry Rice on a muddy field, or would you rather have him on a dry field? This isn't science. This is like actual seeing with your own eyes. Playing on slippery surfaces helps the inferior team, in my opinion.
It was Bears football weather, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And that played a role in the Bears winning.
That's right. So I'm happy that it happened that way. I mean, the Fog Bowl. I'll give everybody an example. Like yesterday, we were going to lose that game. We were going to lose the Fog Bowl. The weather had the factor. It was foggy. They couldn't see. The home team prevailed. We got bailed out, folks. We were going to lose that game. I can look back. I remember every play. Randall Cunningham was on a rampage. We were going to lose. And the fog came in. So I don't want to hear the nonsense from anybody that weather doesn't factor in football.
Mike North here on Sports Talk Chicago. Mike, what do you make of Justin Fields' performance?
Clutch. Do what you got to do. Win. Prevail. I'm not going to compare him to Lance. Lance may be better when they have a dry field. I don't know. But he did what he had to do to win. The defense played great. I liked their pursuit. There's a lot worse defenses. There's a lot worse teams in the league than, we heard before. We were supposed to be the worst. I knew that was nonsense. I took the over Bears 6.5. We'll see what happens. I took over Pittsburgh. I took Mitch and Fields. You want to fire on me? And by the way, I know that if Pittsburgh would have lost this game this past week, I would have taken so much abuse. I would have been in the bunker. So don't give me the crap you're happy that Mitch won and all this BS, because maybe you are. But I'll tell you this, there's a lot of people still trying to say, well, you know what? He didn't average that much per pass. It's all a bunch of nonsense. Just win the game.
Why are so many people still so triggered about Mitch Trubisky? He's gone. He's on a new team. He's succeeding. Why is it still a big point of contention for everybody here in Chicago?
Because the media carried the Bears' water. Nagy's water. I mean, they carried his water for him. We're going to get him out of here for you. We'll help you. We'll help you. Just read all you have to do is go back to the old articles and go back to the same cast of characters. That's the bottom line. It became a narrative. The talk stations, most of the people there wanted them out. And if you read the local papers and if you listen to the sports talk stations, believe me, this is what I've heard. If you're good enough, you can influence people. Or if you're a sheep, you believe everything that everybody says. And you just can't call Mitch Trubisky a bust when he's 30-21 and he put up the stats that he did. I don't care what kind. It's amazing when you hear about, well, he played on a great defense. Hey, Tom Brady played in the AFC East for 20 years. He was 35-3 against Buffalo. Okay. He had a free 6 games every year. Okay. They knew they were going to win every time. So I don't want to hear about Mitch beating the easy teams. Tom Brady, all he had to do was win his division, a few other games, and then they really would start playing in the playoffs.
How good of a quarterback would you rank Mitch right now? If you went 1 to 30, where would he fall in that category?
Well, I read where since 2018, he's the 5th highest winning percentage quarterback. And he just won with Pittsburgh. And I understand people said, well, Burrow had 5 turnovers. Too bad. Oh, why didn't they score more? It's not designed like that. If you get turnovers, then the other team's defense will come out, and I've seen it happen time after time, stop you, especially in your first game. I thought it was a great called game. I thought they did it right, but Trubisky hits the big 3rd down pass in overtime, thrown against his body. That's why he was moved up for 30-21. That's why he was moved up for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's why he was moved up for. You people didn't want to listen to me. None of you. Couple people, stragglers in the media. John didn't always believe in Trubisky. He'll tell you that. I don't blame him. He didn't always, but he wasn't against him completely. There's a difference. John, now I hear John, and he's a Justin Fields booster. But I think that everybody's still out to lunch on that. Okay. We got a tough game coming up. Let's see what happens. I hope it rains. For the people that think weather isn't a factor, I hope it rains and the wind blows 40 miles an hour. Okay. Then we got a shot.
What's going to convince you to become a Justin Fields backer?
Well, last week was a part of it. I'm not against the kid. I was against the move. I mean, that's nothing against him. You know, nowadays, you're against him. I never have said I'm against Justin Fields. I was against getting rid of Trubisky. You finally get a franchise type quarterback and you let him go. And then John knows this. Eldo Gandia knows this. Carmen knows this. They won't tell you. They'll make me tell you. That's okay. I got to take care of myself. I know that. They don't need to toot my horn. I got a trumpet. Okay? It's a gold trumpet. You just, boom. They'll tell you. I've been backing Mitch Trubisky for 4 years. And last year, when he played for Buffalo, I told everybody what was going to happen eventually. Number one, everybody ignored what he did to the Bears in that preseason game because it didn't fit their narrative. I was with the ESPN 1000 at an event, okay? And I looked at Carmen. I said, wow. And I'm sure, because Carmen's not a big Trubisky guy, but he doesn't really, he just got tired of him. Well, that's not good enough for me, you know? I've been married 45 years. I'm sure BB's been tired of me about 10,000 times. I'm still around. So what I'm going to say is that was an embarrassment to Matt Nagy. And the whole Buffalo team came out and supported Mitch. But then Mitch doesn't get the offer. Sam Darnold goes to Carolina. Bridgewater goes to Denver, I think. I'm trying to remember. Everybody passes on Mitch. No, he rebuilt his reputation going to Buffalo. Was the greatest backup quarterback you could have if Josh Allen went down. Rebuilt his image, and now he's a starter. And the people that said he's always going to be a number 2 quarterback that still say that, you don't read, you don't understand the game. He's a number 1 quarterback in this league. If you have been watching lately, Sam Darnold being a New York guy, please, they kiss his ass. He stinks, period. And that's just the way it is.
Let me ask you this. Who's going to have a better year this year, Justin Fields or Mitch Trubisky?
Oh, Mitch Trubisky, except for one thing you got to be worried about. Najee Harris is hurt. Watt is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So, I mean, here's what you don't want if you're Justin Fields or Mitch Trubisky. Here's what you don't want, guys. Either team. Because, you know, for people that don't think I'm a Bear fan, I used to sleep with my Bear stocking cap on when I was 8 years old. Okay? Approximately 62 years ago. So I'm a Bear fan. But I'm a realistic Bear fan. Here's what we don't want. We don't want Justin Fields being the reason they lost. So in other words, if we lose 21-20, Justin Fields throws a couple TDs or he throws one TD and runs in for another. Perfect. Mitch, Steelers lose to New England. 28-22. Mitch, final drive, that comes up short. But Mitch Trubisky throws for 250 yards and a touchdown. That's what you want. And you know what he did not do? What he always does. Here's another thing that has escaped all the Bear fans. He didn't turn over the football last week. And Justin Fields did the same thing, basically. Hung on to that football, which was the thing I was worried about coming in. I'm on fire today, aren't I?
You are on fire.
Could I be happier? Hey, I'm in this contest. I get a call from Matt Humans from Circa Sports in Las Vegas. They decided, hey, man, we're going to have a contest, the Circa Sports Invitational, top 16 handicappers, and I was selected. They pay for everything. You got to give 5 picks a week. I want to thank them for including me as one of the top 16. Whew, it's been a long climb. 15 grand first prize, 7 grand second prize, third grand 3,000. But here's the fun part. I don't need the money. I know that must anger people. I know there's some people in the media going, why? Why? I'm uncancelable. That's why. Here's why. I'm going to tell you something right now. They're giving away a green jacket if you win, like the Masters.
Like the
And a
Masters,
trophy.
right.
And a trophy. I'm a child. I want the green jacket and the trophy. I'll take the money, of course, and I'll even buy John a cup of coffee. That's the kind of guy I am. But I want that jacket. But, man, you talk about a murderer's row. Toughest conference in the whole country. Football, basketball, forget about it. The Circus Sports Invitational with Matty Humans, Derek Stevens, Visson Live, Marquis, Mike Palm, the Maestro. Come on.
Can you promise me something? If you win that green jacket, the next time you come on this show, you got to wear it when we do another.
Oh, I'm going to wear it outside. I'm going to wear it walking the dog. You win a contest again. One guy went 5-0. Now I'm in 7th place. I went 3-2. But one guy, Chuck Adell, a hell of a guy, 5-0 with college and some college. College sunk a lot of guys too. Here's how you got to look at handicapping, John. I almost took Texas A&M. It's who you didn't take sometimes when you go 3-2. Don't be mad that I took Arizona. It was a crap pick. Be happy I didn't take Texas A&M. Be happy I didn't take Notre Dame because I was thinking maybe going college instead of NFL. I went NFL. I would have gone 1-4 in college. So sometimes it's the decision making when you do the handicapping or anything else, any other business.
Mike North here on Sports Talk Chicago. Mike, I wanted to talk about Matt Eberflus and Brian Poles. New regime. They won their first game. How confident are you in them moving forward?
I liked what they did. If they didn't do well, I'd be beating the crap out of them. And everybody knows it. And so I think the reason you hang around doing what you do is to be fair. Okay. Be fair. And we just talked to her. I don't think the media has been fair with Trubisky. I think a lot of it's been fake news. They hid the Nagy not wanting to go to the meeting story for 2 years. Shame on them. I just think I don't want the disco want that their guys want to bring back clothes. Don't do that. I like the sliding. Be original. Don't go back to that era. That didn't stop. You just keep your head. I don't think Eberflus and Poles will do that. If they do, I think they're going back a little bit, and they're acting like college people again. Which Nagy, his judgment has been flawed in everything that he's done. So why would you adopt anything that had anything to do with that saboteur? So I think they got the players hustling. Not worrying about what's going to be on the dance mix after the game, okay, or what club they're going to. So I like what they're doing.
Do you remember Club Dub after that pathetic Thanksgiving win last year over the Lions? Remember they all got together. They were so excited. They barely won that game. That was a pathetic win, and they were all celebrating.
Yeah, I mean, it just showed you that Nagy had this team brainwashed. And I don't think these two guys, and I'll give credit to Bill Polian so far, they might still only win 2-3 games. But to beat the San Francisco 49ers is something that this team will learn from, no doubt. I mean, that was a learning experience beating the Super Bowl team. I don't care what conditions you're in. I mean, both teams played in it. They made a mistake. You got to start Jimmy G. He's from Rolling Meadows. He played in this. What are you doing? Rolling Meadows is approximately, I think if we go on that traffic map or whatever they have now, John, what are we talking? 10, 15 miles away from Soldier Field. Are you people, the 49ers, I mean, there's so much bad decision-making, including last night. They got a guy that's the head coach of the Denver Broncos that doesn't know how to run a clock. I said part of handicapping. 3 things yesterday. If you go to north, you'll get my advice on handicap. And I said 3 things you cannot handicap. 1, an untimely injury during the game. Guy gets hurt. And then all of a sudden, the next 2 things come to fruition, and I win with Seattle. If you saw the game, I said the second thing you can't handicap is turnovers. You don't know when they're going to turn over the ball in that game. They fumbled twice. Okay. And the third thing, I mean, the absolute third thing you cannot do when it's really about turnovers, basically. But you just got to ignore the people, ignore the crowd, because what was it all about yesterday? Denver?
That's right.
Absolutely. So you got to just believe in the system you're in. But bet frugally on Monday Night Football because it was a trap game, like I called it. Okay. And the third thing, you can't predict how the coach is going to use clock management. So the turnovers and the way Hackett, Troy Aikman and Jack Buck, I'm sorry, you guys were pathetic the last 2 minutes. You should not be surprised by what happened. Oh, we were caught off guard. That's your job, to see what's going on instead of reading a promo. Okay, when they brought out the field goal team. Okay, and they never questioned Nathaniel Hackett for keeping the timeouts in his pocket from a minute 30 to 25 seconds, and then they take it with about 20 seconds. Then I found out why. They're probably friends with Paul Hackett, his dad. It's nothing but swamp. Joe Buck's in the Hall of Fame for what? I don't know, because I guess he worked as an announcer, in football. Okay. You're in there with the same Hall of Fame as Doug Atkins, or Gale Sayers. But to me, these two guys are as swamp as it gets, and Aikman's concussed. I mean, he didn't know what was going on at the end of the game. Okay. Had no idea and never got on Hackett at all.
In fairness to Aikman, I don't think any of us did. I mean, that was a shocking misuse of clock management and time. I'm so happy the Bears didn't hire Hackett.
Oh, and he's 42 years old. I couldn't believe the plays he was calling. You have 2 plays from the 1-inch line. You don't call a quarterback sneak. I know you tried Geno the one time, and Geno tried it and he slipped. But you got Russell Wilson. It's 4th and 5, and you try a 64-yarder. This guy, he's the next Nagy. He's the next Nagy. I've seen enough. If you had Coach of the Year with this guy, tear up your ticket. Believe me. After one game.
Mike North still here on Sports Talk Chicago. Mike, wanted to talk about your birthday, 70 years old. How'd you feel about it?
I think I'm blessed. I think I've had a charmed life. I think that I got to do everything I've wanted to do so far. Not only work for ESPN 1000 now with Phoebe, of all people. She's always believed in me, always. But I told her, I said, my type of talk, maybe they don't want it anymore. I know there's teams involved and politics. It's always been played in radio. I know this for a fact, folks. So take that as you see it. There's politics played all the time in every business. But I just feel that when you look at how old I am, Jeff Schwartz told me, and he's a good friend of mine. He was the inspiration for Disco Demolition Night and other things. He was a score maestro as far as promotions. He calls me the Mick Jagger of sports radio. He says, you look the same. Yeah, you got the same. I really believe I'm better now. And I love working with Carmen. I only work one day a week, and I work with my podcast with Bears Barroom, and I jump on things to keep sharp. But in my opinion, not anybody else's, and my wife's opinion, who knows more than anybody about me, I think I'm better now than I was in the 90s. There's no doubt about it. It was a different type of deal. I was raw. I was with a bunch of other guys that were more professional. So I stuck out. So I think now, I'm in my prime. That's the way I feel. My doctor says to me, you got the blood work of a 55-year-old. I guess they can, they take your blood work and they can do that. I said, let me ask you something though, Serge. If I had the blood work of an 85-year-old, would you have told me? He goes, no way. I would have told you that. So he says, I've been blessed with good health, despite having a lot of fun in my life and this and that, playing a lot of sports, not having any major surgeries, knock on wood. So, you just take every day as it comes, but I feel good, buddy. I really do. And I feel good about being 70. I thank everybody who wished me nothing but the best.
Are there any plans to expand if you feel so good? Maybe go to a daily show or go back to what you were doing with the Score type thing where you're going every day?
Well, first of all, that's never been, nobody's asked. And, you got to own a sports station.
Sure.
Or any other station. I still feel that I could do it, but a lot of things got to come into play. I'm happy what I'm doing now. I mean, basically, I look at Carmen and I and Randy Merkin and Prop Swap as one of the great sponsors you could have. And Jimmy Miller, it's been one of the great things I've enjoyed doing in my whole career. Would I like to see it expand? Oh, yeah. I'd like to see, I was doing a gambling show in 1989, but it's not up to me. It's up to the other people. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And, but like I said, everything's got to be right. But, the phone don't ring. And if the phone don't ring, you got to do it on your own. And I'm used to doing that. So I like doing stuff like this. I don't have any financial pressure on me. I'm not, how would you say it? I'm not in debt to anybody that's my boss or anybody else. I'm in debt to do the best job I can every time I go on the air, whether it's on with you or JT the Brick or Munch Bishop in Cleveland, Brick in Vegas, or with anybody on ESPN, Carmen, Yurko, what have you, or Aldo Gandia. I've always given it 100%. I was always afraid of losing, more than happy about winning. Always. I want to win, but I'm more afraid of losing. And I think when that happens, like Gail Sayers used to tell me, I was afraid to get caught when I ran with the ball, once I got in the open field. And that's the way I think you got to be. Give 100%. And maybe, someday, who knows what happens. But right now, it's all good. If somebody would have told me in 1992, I'd be in my 30th year. BB told me, you'll never get an ESPN job, because I was at the other place for 16 years. And then I worked at Fox. I was always the nemesis. I was always taking shots at them because they were, but Adam Delavant and Jim Pastor got me in there. And I want to thank Craig Karmazon and everybody now at Good Karma, because, they kept me on. They've kept Carmen on. It's been great. It's been 5 years. They let me do what I want. I remember Mr. K asking me, do you think you can win with the gambling show? And not only do we win with our picks, but we've won, I think, in any other aspect as far as with Good Karma and AM 1000.
Is there a desire for you to ever return to daily radio? I think a lot of people want to know, because a lot of people have said, and they've commented on these videos saying they'd like to see you back on the air every day.
Absolutely. It's like I said, everybody I think I could do it. Look, I think me and Jigs would win our any spot, whether it would be political radio, sports radio, entertainment radio. It's not confined. Dan Jiggets and me were not confined. I mean, you had one of the more prominent. Dan Jiggets was the first African American, or Dan Win Black host to have crossover in Chicago. The other guys that I grew up listening to in black radio, Daddy O'Daly, Richard Steele, Herb Kent. I'm a historian on radio. I listen to all these guys. Dan was bigger and has been more influential, I think, than all of them. He was influential to me. It was the perfect team, but we were put middays because we were basically looked at as the stepkids at the beginning, to be honest with you. And we came to work every day, and the rest is history. So I think, yeah, if somebody came up and said, we want to actually win and make money, I think absolutely. In fact, we came close recently to coming back with a podcast because we had a power sponsor, we thought, but they approached us too late. So they couldn't get the budget with their corporation passed. But Dan and I had a shot there. But I'm very protective of the Monsters brand. I am. And so is Dan. We don't just, we don't start the ignition for 500 this or 500 that. You know what I mean? We have our standards. So we'll see what happens.
Is it true that you guys were almost going to go to New York and be a team?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What happened?
Well, Dan, this is one of my favorite stories because I'm still so green and in the business. And Dan had already handled the national guys and this and that, and he had an agent and the whole ball wax, so he knew the more of the ins or outs. But he gets me to the side and he says to me, and it's okay to tell these stories because it's nothing that I haven't told before. And Dan's cool with it too, but he says, listen, this guy wants to come in and talk to us. He wants to fly in from New York and talk to us. I go, who? He goes, Mark Chernoff from WFAN. So I go, and this is how we used to talk. I go, get the F out of here. He goes, no, Mike, I'm telling you, he wants to come in. I go, let me get this straight. And I forget what year it was, but it was a guy's going to fly in to see me and you. He goes, that's right. When? He tells me. We go out there. They make us an offer. I go back with Dan, let them know what the offer was, and they matched it, and that's how that happened. Because they wanted us to go to the Fan and replace Len Berman and Mike Lupica at the time. And at the time, there was only 2 stations per owner. Now it's taken a lot of guys out because every corporation can have 8 stations. Well, back then, like if they had the old format, you had entrepreneurs like Danny Lee. You had family owned. Well, that's out the window now. Okay. But at that time, WFAN was not situated with CBS. So that's how that happened. And the next thing you know, I went from a 6-month trial to, a nicer contract, 10 times more down the line. Everything just started mushrooming because we gave people reason to listen. We used to make the news. Same with McNeil. Same with Terry. Same with Cher. Because we were daytime only. And we were so raw. And we didn't give a damn about the papers. And they were so square. And they still are. Okay. They are. And a lot of them now work in sports radio. Okay. So not all. There's just more restrictions now and everything else. But we made the news back then, on this show or on that show. Ditka for us made the news, Brian, of course. The genius all time is Ditka. Out in Shells in 92 in his last year, and he shows up for every show. He shows up on every show and fires away when he was having just the most. He looked blotted, he looked miserable, he was overweight, he was taking heat, but he showed up to work every Tuesday at Ditka's, and that I think really solidified the station.
And Mike, before we finish up today, last question. What's the most memorable moment you've had in radio?
Well, first day. But every day is a memorable moment. When I go on with the odds couple on ESPN 1000, that's memorable. I mean, when I got the job at Fox Sports Radio and we did mornings for 3 years in 220 markets, Andy Furman, Jonas Knox, and I went, Frank Pollock and Eddie Garcia, we went opposite Mike Greenberg. Me and Mike Greenberg met each other January 2nd, 1992. So we went mornings against Mike. So there's so many wonderful things, meeting all my heroes, working with Walter Payton, working with Gail Sayers, knowing Jim McMahon, hanging with Dennis Rodman, going with John Suntress to the major fights, hanging out with the Sopranos cast at the second premiere at a restaurant. I mean, with Steve Dahl when they took radio personalities out there. The whole thing has just been like the whole deal. But the main people that counted were the people that listened to us, and I really would like to see sports radio still thrive, and it's still doing well. They're still making money, but I would still like to see just it go back to the way that it used to be, where the boys can have and the girls can have a little more leeway, if you will.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure. Really appreciated the time and love your Bears thoughts as always. Looking forward to the next time we chat too.
My man, Johnny Z. That's it. I told you, got to go with Johnny Z. You still going with how do you pronounce your last name? Zaghloul?
Zaghloul. Yeah. Johnny Z probably better.
Johnny Z with his sports takes. 1972. Yes, Johnny Z. Hey, today, ladies and gentlemen, in 1972, David James, quarterback for the Kansas Jayhawks, throws it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Or can it be currently? Or does it sound too much like Johnny B? Johnny Z.
Got to be careful there, right?
No, you don't. No, you don't. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. No, you don't. He was on the same time as me. No, you don't. Okay. You know what I said when Schwartz tells me you're the Mick Jagger of sports radio? I said, man, I could sing Satisfaction, but he can't tell you who won the 1930 World Series now, can he? Now, do you know who won the 1930 World Series?
Wasn't the Yankees, was it?
Huh?
Was it the Yankees or no? Or am I off?
You're off.
Okay.
Because you just took the thing that would have given you minus points on Jeopardy, the Yankees, the obvious one. I think, I might be wrong. It wasn't the New York Giants. Philadelphia Athletics. Jimmy Fox, underrated baseball player. I think. Player. And then I think down the line, the New York Giants won one. Let's not get into it. Okay. I've had so much fun today. Good time. I know you got a lot of things to do. You know what I'm saying? You're a busy man. Got the skyline behind you, the whole world at your feet. What could I tell you? John, I appreciate it.